Welcome back, everybody. You're tuned in to the Foundry by Forge College. Let's just dive right into this explainer. If you caught our last lesson, you know we spent a ton of time analyzing the massive, humming, energy-hungry engines of proof of work. But today we're unrolling some completely different, totally fascinating new security schematics. I love these minimalist ink drawings we're looking at today, by the way. Really captures the engineering vibe. We're looking at proof of stake and alternative consensus approaches. We are literally shifting from industrial-scale electricity consumption to, well, highly sophisticated economic design. And honestly, the engineering behind this is absolutely brilliant. So here's the big question. What if securing a blockchain didn't require burning absolute mountains of electricity? You know, in our last explainer, we looked at a system secured by heavy machinery. Just rows of rigs running 24/7, crunching away at cryptographic puzzles. But what if instead of relying on brute physical force and, let's face it, massive utility bills, we built a highly sensitive financial tripwire instead? A system where the security comes from aligned economic incentives rather than just raw electrical output. We're essentially looking at two totally different architectural blueprints here. On the left side of our schematic, we've got proof of work, which is secured by brute force compute and electricity. It's a pretty straightforward, anonymous cost function. You're basically trading energy for security. But over on the right, that's proof of stake. This is secured by locked token capital and economic bonds. We're shifting from a system governed by hash power to one governed by token stakes. It's a remarkably elegant shift, right? But changing the core resource that secures consensus like this, well, it changes absolutely everything about how the network actually operates.
All right, let's move into Section 1, Staking and Validators.
So what exactly is staking? Basically, it's converting token ownership into a security bond. A validator locks up their tokens as collateral for the right to propose or vote on new blocks. Think of it kind of like putting down a massive security deposit on a high-end luxury apartment. You lock up your money up front to prove, hey, I'm going to be a perfectly behaved tenant. If you keep the place clean and follow the rules, you get rewards. But if you decide to throw a wild party and totally trash the place, or, in blockchain terms, if you misbehave and try to validate fraudulent transactions, poof, you lose that deposit. It's a direct, undeniable financial deterrent. Mechanically speaking, this staking machine relies on three interacting gears. First up is stake commitment. This means your tokens become bonded and illiquid. You can't just trade them on a whim. They are locked away as collateral. Gear number 2 is validator selection. Instead of racing to solve a math puzzle faster than the next guy, validators are chosen to propose blocks based on their stake, usually through weighted sampling or maybe a pseudo-random lottery. The key takeaway here is that influence maps directly to capital at risk, not your hashing speed. And the third gear? The economic penalty system. This is absolutely crucial because it's the gear that perfectly aligns those incentives with network safety.
Which brings us to Section 2, Crime and Punishment, or as it's known in the space, slashing. Let's walk through exactly how this protocol catches a malicious actor trying to pull off a digital heist. Imagine we have, let's call him Validator A. Now, Validator A gets this bright idea to help an old buddy reverse a transaction. So to pull this off, in step 1, Validator A signs 2 conflicting checkpoints for the exact same epoch. But here is the fatal flaw in their little scheme. In proof of stake, votes are public, and they are cryptographically tied to your specific key. So moving to step 2, the network instantly detects this uniquely attributable double sign. It's literally the digital equivalent of dropping your ID card right inside the bank vault you're trying to rob. And then step 3 happens. The slashing rule is triggered completely automatically. The network's economic alarms start blaring, and the punishment is swift. 25%. I mean, really let that sink in for a second. If Validator A had, say, 30,000 tokens bonded as their security deposit, boom, they instantly lose 25% of that bonded stake. That is 7,500 tokens just vanished into thin air, slashed by the protocol. Plus, they get forcibly ejected from the active validator set for 10 epochs. It is a massive, immediate financial hit. In proof of work, a failed attack just means you wasted some electricity. But in proof of stake, a failed attack literally destroys your economically valuable capital in seconds.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, the concept of finality. Now, proof of work gives us what's called probabilistic finality. Basically, the deeper a block is buried in the chain, the more mathematically confident we are that it won't be reversed. But technically speaking, with enough rented hash power, an attacker could rewrite history. Proof of stake, on the other hand, can be engineered to give us deterministic finality.
By using a Byzantine fault-tolerant, or BFT-style checkpointing system, once a supermajority of over 66% of the active staked validators signed a checkpoint, that's it. It's irreversible, period. Trying to reverse that deterministic finality would require convincing those validators to sign a conflicting block, which, as we just saw, would instantly trigger that catastrophic economic slashing. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, comparing consensus mechanisms. If you've been following along with the learning programs over at Forge College, you know we really emphasize understanding the fundamental cost of security. Look at the shift in the dominant attack cost across these systems mapped out on this table. In proof of work, your cost is purely operational, right? Hash power and energy. In generic proof of stake, your cost is capital, acquiring massive amounts of stake and risking that severe slashing penalty we talked about. And then if we look at PBFT-style permission systems over on the far right of our diagram, the cost shifts entirely to social constraints. Because to attack that, you'd have to somehow compromise specific known participant identities. And that brings us to Section 5, tradeoffs and key takeaways. So we always have to acknowledge a fundamental truth of system design. Every single elegant engineering choice comes with a trade-off. Because we've removed the physical energy cost, this extreme efficiency introduces entirely new attack vectors. For example, there's the nothing at stake problem where validators might actually be tempted to vote on multiple network forks simply because, well, it doesn't cost them electricity to do so. Or long-range attacks, where early validators try to rewrite years of history using stakes they've already withdrawn. Plus, a highly efficient protocol can encourage large, powerful stake pools to dominate, which creates obvious centralization risks. So how does the protocol defend itself? Well, through strict protocol mitigations. We're talking ruthless slashing rules and, critically, delayed withdrawals. You can't just attack the network and instantly pull your funds out before getting caught. The network physically forces you to wait. We've effectively replaced the complexity of physical hardware with the complexity of game theory. So I want to leave you with this question. Does the incredible efficiency gain of proof of stake introduce structural incentives that secretly concentrate power? It is a truly fascinating trade-off to think about. Lower energy consumption is obviously fantastic for scalability and sustainability. But does it force us to rely on increasingly complex economic safeguards just to prevent wealth from centralizing control? Really think deeply about that as you process this explainer. To explore this topic further and dive into way more advanced Web3 learning, make sure to visit forge.college. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Stay focused, and I will catch you in the next explainer.